Welcome to the 293 Co podcast. Today's episode is time off. Just want to say welcome back.
Welcome back. It's been a long time.
It has.
You know what? I didn't even realize how long it's been that we've been gone from the podcast. I just thought it was a couple of months. That just go to show you where my mind been at, as far as just like dealing with life in general. What about you?
Man, I didn't feel like it was a year. I thought we only did a couple of months, but apparently when we looked at our documents, it's been a year.
Yeah, just like it's crazy how fast like time has went by.
It has.
But I think at the same time, we were so busy dealing with our own process, just like with our own mental health, being in therapy, doctor's appointments, just trying to just stay on that straight and narrow for a minute.
Yeah.
To where we got back to where we was feeling like ourselves. You know what I'm saying? People don't really understand the process that it takes when it comes to podcasting and just the process of just like, production and stuff like that. But at the same time, like having to still put yourself first, you know what I'm saying? Check on family, make sure that you're good. It's a lot.
You always got to put your mental health first, just emotionally, physically. I think in our age bracket, I'm not going to really talk about our age bracket.
Yeah, because you're old.
Shut your ass. Like we're used to just grinding it out and not really putting our mental health first, nor our physical health first.
Now, you're absolutely right.
We forget about our well-being.
No, you're absolutely right, because you got to think about it like how we grew up, not saying that it was the wrong way or the right way or whatever, but mental health was never really put on a platform to where people would tell you like, hey, you need to make sure your mental health is good. We was brought up in a society where it was like, you have to be strong for you and everybody else. You don't show that you're like struggling, because that always showed a sign of weakness. And so, you know what, that was instilled in us.
Right.
And,
absolutely.
The thing of it is just that like once you break that barrier of like, no, I need to really put myself first, because if I don't put myself first, I will never understand or know my worth.
Yeah.
And it's just like, we all know in different ways of like, man, I'm really declining. You know what I'm saying? And it looked different for everybody. But then it comes to that point where when you start that process, hey, it's hard. It's really hard because, even to like doctors and therapists and family and just with yourself in general, like when you look at yourself in the mirror, it's a mystery sometimes. Because you're going to feel different every single day, every minute of the hour. So much stuff happened in our lives, and we gravitate to so many different things, to people, ourselves, our animals, or whoever just come as in your life and out your life. It's so much that you have to gravitate to sometimes that it's like, sometimes you don't know if you're coming or going. You don't even know how you're supposed to feel. Or what are you supposed to do? You just know one thing that everybody have in common when it comes to mental health is you want to feel good. And getting by is when you're saying, I just want to feel okay. You know what I'm saying? So it's just like one of those things where it's like, as I think for me, as I get older, I'm starting to realize like, I know my struggles. I know the challenges when it comes to my mental health, but now it's coming to the point of like, okay, what can I do to help balance it? Because I know month to month, time to time, season to season or whatever, there's going to be challenges where it's like, man, here go the speed bump with my mental health because it was going smooth. And now it's like back rocky again. So what can I do to balance myself back out?
No, absolutely. I feel like a lot of times when we're off balance, right, we're so caught up in the go motion, right?
Right.
We got to go. We got to make this money. And especially in this society economically, that seems to be a theme. And even as a podcaster or influencer, that seems to be the thing, because here's the thing. We already come from struggle, right? And so we want to get to a place where we're not struggling financially, right?
Right.
But we're not thinking about our emotion, our physical and being of struggle. So we're just thinking about the finance of it, right?
Yeah.
So when we get there, we're making all this money. We want to, it becomes a nuance. It becomes a nuance, and you get caught up of playing catch up. Like,
yeah.
you have this thing, well, I have this money, I got all this money, I want more money. So you get caught in that rat race where because you got to keep up with the Joneses. You got to keep up, with, bringing that money in.
Right.
As an influencer, as a podcaster, as an entertainer, that seems to be the thing. I mean, it was the thing back then, but it's more so than anything. Because things are more expensive.
Most people on the outside be like, oh, that's easy money.
Mm-hmm.
And like you said, the podcasters and the entertainers and people the influencers, they make it look easy.
Mm-hmm.
But behind the scenes, it's a lot of hard work. And with that hard work come a lot of stress.
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying? And like you just said before, it is hard to find that time because you got to make that money. When are you going to take time out for you and your mental health?
Yeah.
Because all you're doing is increasing the jeopardy of your mental health to skyrocket even more. And you
Mm-hmm.
keep saying, oh, I'm going to get to it. I'm going to get to it. I'm going to get to it.
Mm-hmm.
But your mental health is left behind on the back burner because you have to stress out about making that money, pay your bills, put food on the table, put gas on the car, make sure your kids got clothes. You know what I'm saying? That's a lot.
And you got to be, especially with finances, like you have to have like income coming in, right?
Right.
If you don't have a stable job. And a lot of times the stable job is just it's flow in the wind because nothing's ever stable with a job these days. And so just keeping up with that money and trying to make sure that you stay in that money because you had trauma from being broke or from being wherever you come from, the struggles. It causes trauma. Struggling causes trauma, regardless what people say.
It does.
It causes trauma because you got to think of the situation that you're in. Some people can't eat. Some people can't pay their bill. They're trying to figure out how to pay their bill. So when you get there, you don't want to go back to that. And that's all you think of. It's like, I don't want to go back to that. So just looking at it and saying, you know what? I'm overwhelmed. I'm making all this money, but there's something missing. I'm not mentally there. And sometimes a lot of influence, I feel like, and podcasters, entertainer, we have a tendency to chase the money and not be present. So You're missing what life has to offer as you chase money. Not all of them, but majority of them.
Right. And you know what? You know how like we had some viewers, ask us, like, hey, when you guys going to start a podcast back up? I've been waiting. But they didn't understand, like, from behind the scenes, like, we had to make sure that we both took care of our mental health.
Absolutely.
Because we both had a lot of stuff going on with our own mental health. It was our own personal struggles and journey. And it was just like, we understood that people was missing the podcast. We was missing it too. But it's like, in order for us to be able to come back on live and to be able to talk and give content and talk about, real life stuff, we had to make sure that we was in our right mind frame and our mental health was okay.
Right.
Because it's just like you said before, it's so easy to put everything in jeopardy so that you can make that extra dollar and still be stressed out.
Yeah, still be stressed out.
You know what I'm saying? To the point where the math ain't mathing. But I think now that we get older and wiser, you have to tell yourself at a certain age, like, hey, it's not even all about the money anymore. Because it's like, if I don't take care of my mental health and I'm not able to produce, I'm not making no money regardless.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? And so it's just like one of those things where it's like, there's so much that's going on in this world today that it's like, you have to put your mental first just so that you can be stable enough just to, make it throughout the day.
Absolutely.
I know for me, it was just like this year alone, I was about to say last year because it's been a whole year since we did a podcast. But this year alone, you know what I'm saying? Like I can let you guys in on my own journey where I was going through different treatment processes for my mental health. I started out with TMS, and that was mental health treatment that I did for 15 weeks. And it was an everyday process, Monday through Friday, going every single day, getting the brain stimulated, just to function because, when you suffer from complex PTSD, suicidal idealization, on top of compulsive OCD, anxiety, and on top of that, severe depression, that's a lot going on in the brain.
Right.
So it ain't like I can just put one thing over to the side and say, okay, the other 4 can just chill.
Mhm.
I can't do that. You know, you can only take medication for so long before it stops working because the chemical imbalance get used to it. And it's just like taking an aspirin.
Mhm.
You know what I'm saying? When the seasons are changing and you still trying to function normal, you know what I'm saying? The mask had to come back out for a couple of times. And on top of that, dealing with grief.
Mhm.
You know what I'm saying? It was a lot. So I started that treatment for 15 weeks.
How was
Then-
that?
The struggle for that was really hard because being consistent Monday through Friday, I mean, it was a huge commitment. In the beginning, I was just kind of like, you know what? I can do this. Because I went back to that whole fits process, right? But the other challenge was getting through the procedure. Because, I mean, you sitting in a chair and they put all these chemicals on your head or whatever, and it's literally electrocuting you, where more of a intensive shock, right?
Mhm.
Now, when you see the advertisement and you see the brochures, you got a lady sitting in the chair and she's smiling, she all dressed up.
Mhm.
That's not what you're going through. It's painful. And for people who tell you that it's not painful, they lying to you. It's painful. And you know what? It heightened my anxiety, but I kept going because I'm just like, you know what? Hey, I signed up to do these treatments. I got to keep going. That's the competitive side. And I had to keep telling myself, like, you ain't on the basketball court. You ain't on the football field. You're not on the softball field.
Mhm.
Like, this is your life. But at the same time, when the doctors see how bad you're struggling, it's like, hey, what else was I supposed to go to in that moment?
Yeah.
So those 15 weeks became boom. And I'm thinking like, you know, hey, it's going to get better. I'm talking myself through it,
Mm-hmm.
you know, but it was hard Monday through Friday, every single day, same regimen, 9 o'clock in the morning, you know, and then I didn't start seeing results till it got near the end of treatment where those weeks started declining. And I'm sitting here and I'm worried about the weeks, you know what I'm saying? And so the doctor was like, you know, we're going to give you an additional 15 days. Cause I'm just like, what am I supposed to do now, doc? You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm starting to feel it, but then it was the process of the brain. Like, hey, once this over, what's going to happen? Is everything going to rise again? So then it was just like, when they seen that, you know, hey, this not working. They seen like improvement here and there, but it was kind of spotty.
Mm-hmm.
So they was like, hey, you know what? My psychiatrist like, you know what? We need to get you in the Seattle NTC. So you know what? I went over there. They looked at everything and they was like, hey, we're going to do, you know.
Is that the ketamine? Or?
That's the ketamine, the microdosing. You know, where I had to go in 3 times a week.
I thought you were doing microdosing at the other one.
No, it's called Seattle NTC, but I was able to do it in Tacoma.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So it's through Seattle NTC, but they had an office in Tacoma.
Oh.
TMS was in Lakewood.
Oh, yeah.
So then when I started the ketamine,
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know what I was getting into, but I needed it to take away all the, you know, intuitive thoughts, you know, and stuff like that, because it was challenging. You know what I'm saying? Having to get up and do all that.
Mm-hmm.
But then, like, the ketamine, you know, I started it and I was just like, oh, okay, I feel a little bit, you know, you sitting there, you know, you getting the doses or whatever. And it's just kind of like, whoa, like I'm high as hell. So like what this supposed to do for my mind process? And it declined. It was just like something that started working. Then it was just like, it wasn't working anymore, to where the last couple of treatments that I had, they actually had to stop in the middle of, finishing the treatments because they just seemed like they gave me extra treatments and they just stopped it because they was like, nah, your stuff is a little bit more severe, because it was like I was going in there getting microdose and it wasn't even affecting me. You would have thought I was just drinking water. I never felt what I was supposed to be feeling and how it's supposed to like kind of like, you know, re-manage the brain of thinking. Nah, I didn't feel anything. I'm just sitting up in there chilling for 2 hours.
I thought it helped a little bit though, right?
Yeah, but it wore off.
Oh,
so when I kept
like
going,
your body got used to that.
My body got used to it. So it was just like drinking water. You know, in the beginning, I had high hope. I was just like, oh, yeah, this get me through the weekend, you know, because on Fridays, you know, I had the weekend, and then Monday I would go back, then Wednesday, then Friday. But then after that 3-week span, going into week 4, week 5,
right,
I stopped feeling anything. And it was just like, well, man, can y'all go up on the doses? And that was the highest they could give me.
Damn.
And so, you know, they thought about, hey, well, maybe TMS, but then they seen that I was a perfect candidate for ECT. And that one I was scared for, because I'm just like, whoa, you know,
now,
you
ECT
actually
is
the one where I was going up to Swedish.
Is that what is
electrical convulsive therapy.
Okay.
And that's the one where I go under.
Mm-hmm.
They put you under and they shock your brain waves to try to recharge and rewire the brain, per se. And that one I could honestly say, you know, was working. But it's so hard on the body. Because then I started having other complications. You know, you wake up, you have the headaches, you know, because they shock your brain and put your brain in a seizure.
Yeah.
To rewire it. Yeah, you don't feel it because you're under, but you know what? And then it was just like my veins was starting to be dry because, you know, I was a higher severe case. So that was 3 times a week. And I'm like going in there, you know, getting put under 3 times a week, waking up. And then, you know, I started feeling good. The first time I told the doctors, I said, you know what? For as long as I've been on this earth, this is the first time I can actually say I feel alive.
Damn, that's a lot coming from you.
And that's deep.
Yeah.
Because this whole time I feel like I've just been walking around dead, giving everybody what they want, just going through the motions or whatever.
Right.
But that was the first time I actually felt alive. You know, it lowered my OCD and everything. And now, you know, I'm trying to get back into ECT. So I had to go back to my regular medications and back to the patch.
Right.
Because now, like with ECT, they have it back at UW. So I'm trying to transfer from Seattle NTC back over to UW. But I had to let my body heal. Because, you know, it drains you. They absolutely, when you going through that and you come home, you pretty much sleep the rest of the day. But that process is so hard. Imagine doing that 3 times a week, but every night before you have to fast for 8 hours. Before you go back into treatment. You can't eat again until after you come out the procedure. Then you're going through the headaches, the body pains, the cognitive behavior skills where, you know, I'm still in the process. It haven't been 6 months yet for me to fully regain all my memory. And when my cognitive skills started messing up to where I couldn't even get out what I wanted to say half of the time. It was hard. That struggle was really hard for me because it was like I was forgetting simple stuff.
Right.
And, you know, still right now, I still like forget like patterns of like, you know, I wake up and be like, what day is it? You know, just stuff like that, you know, fighting with yourself, stuff that you normally do on a regular basis. But going through these procedures, that's one of the major side effects is your cognitive skills. You know, you have memory loss. You have to take memory tests so that the doctors can see like, how much memory have you lost? How much is going to regain back? Because you get it back over time, but it's a 6-month span.
Damn.
You know, and I'm like...
So it looks like it has a positive and a negative.
Yeah, it has...
Would you say more negative or more positive?
Everybody is different. That's the thing. Like for me, I had the cognitive skills and the memory loss, but they was able to stop it before my cognitive skills got really bad. Because, you know, you notice, like, I could stare at a menu and I could see probably what I wanted, but I couldn't really comprehend it to be like, okay, this one. But it's your decision-making really gets slowed down to where sometimes you just really can't even make a decision.
Oh, shit. Okay.
And for me, like, it started to be a frustration. I felt alive on one side, but the things that's supposed to be simple started to get harder. Especially just like, you know, they would tell you like, hey, make sure you start writing stuff down. You know, I had a little chalkboard, but it's just like, when you competitive, why would you want to write stuff down on the chalkboard? You still trying to get yourself to remember. Yeah. Just the small stuff.
Damn.
And then it was hard being around people, not being able to just be, you know, I don't want to say use the word normal, but, you know, just be to how you used to be with stuff like that.
Yeah.
You know, because I even forgot the doctors had even said, you know, when you start ECT, you're not supposed to drive when you're doing treatment. I'm up here trying to drive, being on the freeway, forgetting where I was going. Sometimes would be like, okay, I'm on the freeway. What was I supposed to be doing? Because I would forget.
Damn.
And then it was even harder doing football, you know what I'm saying, just trying to remember players' names. I just be like, hey, you. I was already bad with names. Yeah, but that got even harder, so I was able to kind of play that off.
Okay.
But like you and Phaedra knew that I was struggling. Like my family knew I was struggling, but I was just like, I didn't remember conversations I had with people. And I would be like, hey, give me a hint. You know, people would have to like, hey, well, remember this day, that day, and you'd be like, oh, okay. Then it would come back a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
But like hands down, for me, I felt like the best treatment that worked was ECT.
Yeah.
But, you know, I also was supposed to been doing like, I think 50 something treatments, but I didn't get all the way through the full process because of complications that I had.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, as soon as like I get through those complications, then I'll be able to start back up. So how your process been? And like I said, I could continue been going through therapy and seeing my psychiatrist monthly, therapy weekly, you know, but you know, the time is about to change. So, you know what I'm saying? It's just like challenges with that, but it's just like, I think I figured out a pattern now, you know, until I'm able to get back into ECT. They talking about, you know, starting me back up on ketamine and TMS to kind of like, you know, balance me out.
Oh, okay.
But I mean, like for right now, I'm up for the challenge. You know what I'm saying? Like I know my challenges and my strengths and weaknesses, but you know what I'm saying? It ain't easy.
Nah.
You know what I'm saying? I still try to get out and do stuff when I can. Softball has been my safe haven right now, honestly, because you know I'm all about softball Sunday and Fridays and whenever other day people need me to play. But I mean,
you guys got to see this fool play.
Yeah, I'm telling you, I be hitting those things.
Them stiff legs be going.
No, my legs are not stiff. They just, you know what I'm saying, when they get cold, they get a little tight. You know what I'm saying? They're not too stiff.
You should see it. Look like she trying to run your engine. It's almost like you got to start the engine and let it warm up.
Whatever. But my other outlet, though, is, you know, Xbox. The new Black Ops 6 is out if you ain't got it. If not, you can go back to Modern Warfare 3. But, you know what I'm saying? I'll be on the sticks.
Let them hear them thumbs.
My controller do be loud, but hey, you know what I'm saying?
Your controller be loud, like click, 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 click.
But
click,
you know,
click.
I'm kind of glad that, you know, we was able to take that time off though, because it was like my mental health was declining really bad.
Right.
And you know, I had that year to actually like really get in there and put the work in to try to get my treatment back to where I needed it to be. Because like I said, you know, hey, I was hospitalized a couple of times. And when I went down to Texas and I was in an institution for a while, you know what I'm saying? My mental health was really bad. And so like, you know, now I can see like, hey, when I'm starting to decline, I kind of, you know, have the outlets to go to and be like, hey, Doc, what are we going to do? You know, and stuff like that. So yeah, even though I didn't know it was a year, you know, it was a year of like working on myself.
Yeah.
What about you?
I think during that year of just a break, time off, I think I got more deep with myself as far as what were my triggers. I'm starting to understand a lot more of my childhood trauma.
Right.
And just, you know, parenting and then just trying to navigate, you know, just life for me. So it's been a lot of work, especially like with football. I think football was, I think it was a lot of work this year. I think for me, it was exhausting.
It was a lot of work, especially dealing with other people's mental health, because it's like one thing that I've noticed is when you start working on yourself, it's easier for you to see the signs in other
absolutely.
people. Not like diagnosing people. That's not what I'm saying.
No.
Is that you see the signs of other people within yourself on how you struggle and what it look like. Mm-hmm. It's like looking at a reflection of yourself in somebody else. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And the hardest thing is about mental health is being true to yourself. Knowing when you need help.
Yeah.
Knowing when you ready to be like, hey, I can no longer carry this bag. I need to drop it, open it up, and let some shit out.
Yeah. And I think that's how I felt in 2020. Was it 2024?
2024.
Dang, we've been gone.
We've been gone for a long time. The last time we did a podcast was October the 18th of 2023.
Yeah.
So it's been over a year.
It's been, yeah. So just trying to navigate that. And then, you know, just like my trauma, especially as a kid, you start to understand that and look, just more depth for me. And,
Yeah.
you know, more questions for my therapist. He's like, Charity, you got a lot of questions. Yeah. And I mean, rightfully so. And just seeing just people around me struggle, friends, family, and, even the ones that are not going through therapy,
Right.
like just seeing how they navigate stuff, and you just kind of just, I don't know, just have a sincere empathy for those.
Yeah, and I think sometimes people take it the wrong way. Like for me in general, if I see that I have like family, friends that are struggling, like sometimes they look at me as for like, hey, well, I need you to help me. I can't help you. I can listen to you.
Yeah.
Hell, I'm struggling my damn self. It ain't no judgment there. But the thing of it is just that I'm doing something about mine.
Yeah.
It don't make me no better than you. I tell people all the time, like, hell, I may dress the part and I can smile and I can laugh and joke, but that don't mean nothing.
It doesn't.
Because at the end of the day, I can verbally come out and say, hey, I struggle. You know what I'm saying? And like be upfront honest about it.
Mm-hmm.
You know? And I'll let anybody know I'm in therapy.
Yeah.
Shit, we can sit down and have a conversation about our struggles. I'm not ashamed of it because you know what? I had to deal with it. I'm still learning a lot about myself.
Yeah. And I think that's the beauty of it. And I think that's where I have, since my time off, I had a sincere appreciation for myself.
Right.
Taking on that struggle, and also going to therapy and doing my work. Right. And it's hard work. And I feel like, there's a lot of crying sessions.
Yeah, you get crying. You be like, I ain't coming back to therapy no more. Your therapist be pissing you the hell off. But I mean, that's their job. If your therapist don't piss you off at least once or twice a week, then, maybe you got to reevaluate it. But I tell people all the time, you'll know if you got a good therapist if they challenge you.
Right. And I feel like, just a deep thought of being challenged, but just also like, damn, really looking within myself and recognizing the good parts and the negative parts. Because, we all got toxic traits.
Yeah, everybody got toxic traits. Right. You know what I'm saying? But like you said, at the same time, it's about recognizing it and doing something about it, Because, I mean, one thing that I had to learn through that, it was a hard lesson that I had to teach myself and I had to be like open and honest about, is my grieving process. Mm. And the thing of it is just that like, I wasn't in denial that I was grieving. The hard part about my grieving was being okay to let go. That was the hardest that I had to learn along through the journey of also working on myself, because I've always been that person that was a caretaker for everybody else.
Yeah.
And the hardest part for me is being that caretaker. It was hard for other people to see that I was grieving. Mm-hmm. You see what I'm saying? So then I had to go through that process of feeling alone all over again. Mm-hmm. Because at one part in my grieving process, the only thing that I ever wanted was for somebody to understand my viewpoint of what I was actually going through. You see what I'm saying? Right. Because I made things look so easy.
I think still to this day, like even trying to make someone understand what you're going through, they're not going to get it.
They're not going to get it, yeah.
Some people are not going to get it. And it's not that, well, no, they just don't get it.
I think too is that sometimes people want you to just speed up your process. Mm-hmm. They feel better because it's uncomfortable for them.
Because they haven't worked on themselves and they're struggling. And I think, just watching someone work on themselves, because it's not easy. You go through points, and I think this year alone, I have went through a down spiral, right? Honestly, where I was like questioning like the value of myself, and then just like the realization of part of me not being present on a lot of things.
I feel that.
And that made me sad. I was like really, I think it was more devastating because it's just like, you know, why was I not present? Did I lose myself? Like, and the truth starts to come out. And I think when you start dealing with the truth of yourself, it can be devastating. And I think for me, that time off was working on myself and finding the truth about myself. And it was devastating.
It's a hard pill to swallow. And I think for me, I disassociated so much to where I didn't have to feel anything because I needed to talk about it first, right? And then I left feelings out of it. So during that time off for me, it was just kind of like, okay, I need to talk about it, but I need to put it back on the shelf.
Right.
And I'll come back to it because I don't want to cry. You know, I don't want to feel it. You know what I'm saying? But it was like at the same time, it is devastating to know like I'm hurting. And every time that I would wake up, I'd be like, man, I don't even want to be here anymore. And it's just like, why am I here? Yeah. You know? Yeah. And it wasn't about finding a purpose because my purpose was at the time, making sure everybody else is okay. And so I'm thinking like, if everybody else is good, I'm living through them because I care about people. You know what I'm saying? But then, you know, realization struck when I had to strip my own self down, be alone and say, now, Boney, what is it that you want to do?
Right.
Don't put nobody else in this equation. What is it that you want to do? And that's when the grieving process for me really started. That, you know what? It was easier for me to be dead to then be alive. And my therapist said it to me best. She said, she said, Boney, she said, you've been living your life dead. And she was absolutely right because I could talk about death and be more comfortable than I could talk about being alive because I couldn't resonate with it. And so like when you suffer from depression, you already dead in the mindset because you know what? When you land in that bed, it's like laying in that coffin.
Damn, that's deep.
You don't want to get up. I didn't want to get up. When I'm sitting in a dark room, I didn't want the sunlight to come in because I'm comfortable sitting in the dark. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, use the lights. Nah, on top of that, you just triggered me because now I'm sitting up here thinking about how many volts is going through with the electricity, how much my light bill going to be. You know what I'm saying? Where I can use natural sunlight.
Right.
But that's going to give me the vitamin D that have to get up to give me energy when I just want to lay in the bed.
Yeah.
So it's just like that tug of war with life. It didn't have to deal with people. You know what I'm saying? Like people don't realize like how much the mind can really just genuinely mess you up.
It's interesting like how we can go through life. A lot of us go through life when it doesn't matter how much money you got or no money you got. Just how we go through life not being present and just going through the motions.
Yeah.
You know, we're going through it. And it wasn't until I started looking at pictures for me, then I started like really getting sad because I was like, I wasn't present. I wasn't, you know, like I find myself to be, I felt like I was disassociated from that space, right? To preserve myself, to protect myself. So I disassociated. And a lot of times it's just like, I was there, but not there.
Right.
So I felt like that for me was like, I was just going through the motions and I wasn't present. And I know why I wasn't present. You know, it was protection. It was, you know, when you're pushed to the brink, people shut down and they disassociate, right?
Yep.
And so, yeah, I felt like the little me, the little Charity, where I disassociated and wasn't present. And like I said, I use sports as a getaway, but then now I think about it, it's like, damn, was I even present playing? Was I even playing?
It was almost like being in a glass jar and you running, but you can't get out of it.
Right. in the meantime, it was a temporary fix for that short period. But I'll be honest with you, I wasn't present then either.
Yeah, and it just, it's funny how like now in this day and age, we can sit back and we can resonate with all the times that we wasn't present, that we were just getting by. And, I don't know about you, but like I just sit back like, man, if I would have just like started this process like years back, like life would look different. Life would really look different.
Yeah. I wish I didn't tell that therapist at school, in high school, this is your job. I should have just did the work. But at the same time, I didn't understand the work. And we come from a Black family, like a culturally family where
you got to be strong.
You got to be strong. You can't talk about your business or your problems to other people. And so we go through life protecting ourselves, and that makes us not present either, because guess what? We are not like, we think we're coming from a genuine spot, and we're really not.
Right. But one thing that we've learned out of all of this though, is that now we recognize when we need to take a break.
Yeah.
When we need to take a time out, and we need to focus on our mental. Because it's really important. Like, people don't realize like the effects that it starts with you. If you're the hierarchy of your family, you have to be okay in order to keep everybody else in line. Mm-hmm. Because regardless, no matter what you do in life, there is somebody always looking up to you.
Yeah, always.
And I'm not saying that we have to be perfect, because there's nobody in this world that's perfect. So, you know what I'm saying? But there's always going to be somebody that's looking up to you, and you may not even know it, because they think that your life is better than theirs, because they may be struggling but don't realize you're struggling. You see what I'm saying? Because mental health look different in everybody. Mm-hmm. But one thing that I can guarantee you on, if you're struggling with your mental health, there is always something that we have in common. No matter if you're rich, poor, middle class, homeless, you always going to have something in common.
Mm-hmm. No, absolutely. We're all going to struggle. And like, I tell the kids all the time, like, it's okay to struggle. It's okay not to be okay.
Yeah. And it's just sad that like, I feel like people don't realize how lucky they are now that they are taking the opportunity out now to like really put mental health on the map. I wish I had that back when I was young. Maybe I would have spoke up, maybe not, you know what I'm saying? But I feel like I wouldn't have been as old as I am now. I'm not that old, but I'm just saying, as far as like, I had to clear that up. I'm not that old, y'all. But I'm just saying, just like how long it took me to actually get my process started.
Right.
I mean, I'd probably be somewhere totally different now.
Emotionally and physically, yeah.
Yeah. Even when the aspect of like my sports career and everything.
Mm-hmm. We don't know how much. This is the other question. It's not even the question. This is the other thing I noticed, and especially in the culturally demographic families, right? We don't know what affects us, right? We think like, even though we go through, and I can say we go through a lot, emotionally, physically, we go through a lot, right?
Right.
But we put on this thing, I'm not going to let someone see me sweat or cry, and so that becomes a fabric of who we are. And we move through life like that, right? And so when you get into these relationships, we think we're getting into a healthy relationship when really it's not. Right. We think we're creating these healthy, whether it's job, your friendship, or whatever, and really we're not.
Because you think about it, when you don't take time out for yourself, and I'd be like, really authentically take time out for yourself to focus on you, that's what happens. You jump back into toxicity with a relationship, or you become codependent on a person because in that moment they make you feel good. Mm-hmm. They make you feel like you're worth something. One thing that you have to learn as an individual is you should never rely on anybody to make you feel good, to make you feel like you're worth something. If you can't do it for yourself, you have to put in the time and the work.
You have to. And I think that's the part where a lot of us, because I can say myself too, in general, like before, was scared of the unknown. Like, what if this doesn't, what if this
Right.
creates something else? And it will. It's going to create, you're going to be open, because at that point, you're learning how to be vulnerable. During our time of struggle, we shut vulnerability off. And I know I have.
Oh, I have. Yeah.
During this time off, I learned, like, damn, how well I shut it off and how well I did without vulnerability, right?
Right.
And yeah, I'll show vulnerability on certain aspects, but was I really though?
Yeah, I mean, you question mark, was you really? I mean, but that's a good question though. Because like, okay, I'm gonna tell you something.
Mm-hmm.
And you probably already know this about me because y'all know how I am.
Yeah.
But I'm going to tell you one of the hardest lessons that I had to learn.
Mm-hmm.
I was too scared to learn how to love people because I didn't know how to love myself.
Absolutely. Yeah. That makes
sense. So, what I'm saying, being young and dumb and you jumping into relationships and you think that, hey, if I give this person everything that they want or whatever, they should be good. They should know that I love them, because you know what? I learned that cycle as a young kid.
Mm-hmm.
You see what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Because a lot of households was integrated into that.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
You know what I'm saying? Materialistic things was love.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm putting food on the table, that's love. If you got a roof over your head, that's love.
Right.
But the thing that we didn't, the thing that we didn't know about love was the emotional piece of it.
Yeah, the vulnerability piece of it.
Right.
Yeah.
So when I'm sitting up here and I'm thinking like, why you sit up here getting mad, talking about I don't love you? Mm-hmm. How can I show you that if I don't know how to love myself?
Mm-hmm.
Because I didn't know my own worth at the time.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? And so it took years of trying to learn that. It took years of grief. It took years of disappointment to kind of figure it out. But then at the same time, it's still a learning process.
Yeah. Yeah, just how to be vulnerable with yourself. Because if you're vulnerable with yourself, when you get in the next relationship or relationship, you're going to be vulnerable, genuinely vulnerable with your relationship and people or your kids. You know what I'm saying? You're really going to be vulnerable, and it's not going to be like, because really I learned during this year off that, learning how to be vulnerable, that's scary, and learning how to have empathy for a motherfucker that hurts you, because I learned that, when someone hurts you, you shut down, like, fuck that.
Right.
I'm going to be just that emotion and that feeling I have for you.
Right.
It's gone. But learning how to be empathetic with a person, and it don't necessarily mean they're right and they're in the wrong and they're in the right. They're definitely wrong, but it's not saying, you know what, I forgive you. It's not saying that. It's just saying, I understand what you're going through and what you're saying, but that's as far as it goes.
Okay, let me ask you a question.
Mm-hmm.
So let's just say hypothetically, right? If you're a person that's been hurt, and the other person is just like, I know you're the person for me, but they continue to keep hurting you.
Mm-hmm.
And you starting to go through your process of knowing your worth and being like, you know what, I can't take this anymore.
Mm-hmm.
I can't keep overlooking the things that you're doing to me.
Mm-hmm.
And you're actually the one that's going through therapy and learning the different ways of being like, okay, this is what I learned about myself. Here's where I've grown.
Mm-hmm.
How do you deal with that person that's keep trying to come into your life, but they're not willing to change?
Empathy.
So do you take them back?
No, you have empathy. It don't mean that what they're doing to you is right. It just means, because if you didn't have empathy, there's an anger, there's frustration, there's hate, there's a disregard, there's, what I'm saying? All those things come into play, and it's not affecting that person that hurt you because they can give a fuck. They won't recognize like, oh yeah, I hurt you, but it's whatever. Like, they don't see that. They just see it as, oh, we just wasn't on the same page instead of being honest. You know what I'm saying?
Right. I get what you're saying, but that's why I said hypothetically, because what if that person be like, you know what, they know that you're their person, right? But
no, they don't. They pretend that they think they know I'm their person. Or, you know what I'm saying? Whoever it may be, they may pretend that you're that person. But in all reality, if they don't know themselves or love themselves, because here's the thing, if you're hurting people and you're not being accountable for your actions or being responsible for your actions, like, there is no need to, like, say I'm your person.
Right.
Because you have a very small window. It's black and gray. It's black and white. So there's no gray there.
Yeah, I was about to say there's no gray.
There's no gray there. You just say it's like borderline, right? Borderline say this a lot. You're my person, right? And I'm just gonna put it out there. You're my person, but without them getting the type of help that they need, and they need a lot of help. They say that, and the empathetic part of me says they really do believe that.
Right.
Even though the human part of me, the healed part of me that's going through my work, no, that doesn't make sense.
Right.
But for them, they really do believe that, right? Their brain, how they process things, they think totally different. They have a double standards. Like, you can do this. Like, I can do this, but you can't do this type of mentality. And so they really, and I had to work on that in therapy, like a couple of weeks ago.
Right.
Like the empathetic, because you get to a point where you're angry. You get to the point, and at the end of the day, you look at it, it's like, okay, how is this affecting me? And It's affecting me. And I know it is, right? It's affecting me through my work. It's affecting me through my creativity. It's affecting me emotionally, physically, how I think and see things, right? But when you have empathy for someone, and it's not saying that you want them back, or it's not saying that they're right. It's just that, okay, they think differently, and it's sad that, they even have that thought process, but then it gives you time to say, you know what, I have empathy for myself because I know. So, I don't know. I'm still in the learning process of that, still working on that piece, but it makes a lot of sense, and it's clear to me.
Right.
And I've tried it, and, I feel like it did alleviate some anger for me.
Okay. Well, I mean, that's a start though.
Yeah. Because at the end of the day, a person can hurt you, or a job can do whatever. You can be with a job for 36 years and they be like, fuck it, I don't need you no more. Right?
Yeah.
And really screw you over. You don't want to leave that and be so angry that you take yourself out of your own game.
Yeah, and you know what? People have done that a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Some people, they stay in families, friendship, relationship, whatever kind of ship you want to call it.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Where they know they getting done wrong.
Mm-hmm.
But like you said, with the empathy part is that you still try to find a way to be like, you know what, at the end of the day, they have a good heart. Well, this is the good quality about this person. Here's their characteristics.
Right.
You got to put all that to the side.
Right, to the side.
And literally just be pinpoint on about the situation and what's going on. Like, you need that narrative.
Mm-hmm.
You have to be straight dialogue of what the problem is.
And here's the thing, and this probably goes for people who are in narcissistic relationships, or sometimes if you're with a person who has borderline and they're not working on themselves, like, there's an empathy for them too.
Right.
And it's because, behind closed doors, you never know what's going on.
Yeah.
There's numerous reasons why people stay, and I can tell you, a lot of it is not for love.
Hey, but I'm gonna give you one of the key signs though. If you feel like you're in one of those type of relationships, here's some key signs to look out for. Now, look, take it at your own discretion, but control is one of them. But two, if you see your partner, spouse, or whatever, and they always in the bathroom, hey, that's a key sign that, hey, they may not be happy, or they just trying to get away from you. You know what I'm saying? Because for a lot of people, the bathroom is like the woosah time. And I'm not talking about going in there, handling your business. I'm talking about, them days where you just sit on the toilet and just be like, man, you think, look, you have to think about your life.
Playing Candy Crush.
It's kind of like that peace and quiet. That's like the sauna, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
Or you start seeing the distance. But it's just like, that's where it plays into part about communication. But it's like this. You can communicate so many times with that other person. But if both people are not willing to change and check back in with each other to say, hey, how do you think this is going? Not talking about, the only time sometimes people want to talk is when they be like, oh, well, I thought things was good and the communication stopped, but you only talk when it's bad. That's not good communication.
Well, it also boils down to the vulnerability part again.
Right.
Like, in order to have those uncomfortable conversations, you have to be vulnerable. And what that means is you're going to have to let down your guard. You're going to have to be open. And, whether what this person is saying is not good or it can be positive. It can go either way. But you have to be vulnerable during that time of having those conversations or it's not going to work. I see a lot of people, when you talk to them, they quickly shut down.
Yeah.
And they're just like, I don't want to talk about it. You're just trying to start an argument. And that's not the case. It's uncomfortable. Of course it is. Nobody wants to have, when your relationship is hitting the shitter, nobody want to talk about the bad parts of it.
Nah, because you know what? Nobody want to get thrown under the bus to be like, oh, well, this is how you think about me. But sometimes you got to hear the harsh truth.
You do.
Or the other thing about, relationships, and it's just like, the thing where it's like you could be talking to your other half and like they be like, well, I know I have these qualities about me, but they're not trying to change that about themselves. And they use that as an excuse before. And it's just like, well, if you know that you have an issue
you met
with
me like this.
Yeah.
No.
It's like, but you don't want to change it for yourself. And then when something happens, you play the victim off of it.
Yeah.
It's like we got family members like that too.
Oh man, I got a shitload of family.
So it's just like not only are we talking about relationships, we just talking about people in general.
It's just people in general. Yeah, because you come, when you meet people, you're having a relationship with them. Like, and it doesn't have to be intimacy, right?
Right.
So this is general. But yeah, we got a lot of family members like that. Like, oh, just the whole, like, you met me like this. Oh, you knew I was like this. And so why you doing this? Blah, blah, blah. You know what I mean? So it requires, and even family members, you gotta be like, when you having a conversation with your family member and y'all having it out, y'all gotta be vulnerable. In Black families, man, we can go full throttle. We can tell you about yourself and take your heart.
We sure can.
Tell you about yourself, take your heart, and then walk away. So we walk away because we don't want to hear the other side of it.
But and people turn around and be like, oh, you're so mean. It's not mean. It's about being blunt. Because sometimes, if a person walk around and they think like, hey, well, I could tell people about themselves, but you don't want to be known about yourself. Nah, we ain't playing them games. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like, it's one of those things where it's like, well, you need to know about yourself too.
Yeah.
But I'm telling you one thing, if you go to therapy, your therapist is going to tell you about yourself straight up. And if your therapist don't tell you about yourself, your therapist ain't good, hands down.
Yeah.
It's just one of those things.
Well, talking about therapists, that will be our next episode, the process of therapy. That being said, I want to say welcome back. We are finally back. So if you have any topics or conversations that you want us to talk about, please hit us up and let us know. You can hit us up on Instagram,
Facebook. Mainly those two.
I think the email's on the site. Yeah, there's the email on the site. And just hit us up and see what topic you want to talk about. If you are saying, hey, I want to join in on your topic, that'd be great. Hit us up too and let us know. That being said, thank ya.